Why have they simply not made an announcement to the fact that all of this speculation about the children's arrival?
Before we go any further, a quick, important note. Everything below reflects claims, speculation, and commentary that have circulated publicly. None of it should be treated as established fact. Where critics and commentators make allegations, I'll identify them as such, and where details are uncertain.
Why would you do that? That's not necessary.
Silence everybody and just produce a DNA sample or proof of delivery.
It's like she's playing a human being, like it's a performance.
I'll keep them framed as questions rather than conclusions. What if one of the most celebrated royal births wasn't quite the story the world was sold? That's the question some commentators have been pushing into the mainstream conversation, and whether you find it outrageous or overdue, the noise around Harry and Meghan's birth narratives has become impossible to ignore. For years, the couple presented Archie's arrival as a deeply private moment, carefully managed, tightly controlled, and defiantly separate from palace choreography. Supporters called that boundary setting. Skeptics called it selective transparency. And
Buckingham Palace is being pressured to remove Prince Archie and Princess Elizabeth from the UK's royal line of succession until the Duchess provides absolute proof that she popped out.
Now a chorus of voices, podcasters, columnists, YouTubers, even a few self-described insiders, claim they've spotted cracks large enough to drive a convoy through. At the center of a lot of this chatter sits Candace Owens, who has repeatedly argued that pieces of Meghan's pregnancy story don't sit right. To her audience, the contradictions feel less like innocent misremembering and more like a curated mythology. She points to moments that, in her view, strain credibility, shifting explanations about press access, a tightly edited timeline, and colorful hospital anecdotes that critics say sound cinematic rather than clinical. That doesn't prove deception, but it does explain why a segment of the public keeps asking for something sturdier than vibes and glossy photos. The spark for much of the current debate is Harry's own best-selling memoir. In it, he recalls Meghan giving birth at London's Portland Hospital, luxurious, discreet, and famous for VIP maternity care. He writes about intense pain management, even references that critics interpret as 2 epidurals, and then a rapid discharge followed by a quiet return to Frogmore Cottage.
Legacy scandal has entered the mainstream media domain.
It sounds fake.
The page, it reads like resilience under pressure, a modern couple wrestling control back from an institution that prefers to write the script. But when nurses, obstetricians, and battle-hardened mothers on forums and talk shows began dissecting those details, the questions multiplied. Medical professionals remind everyone that an epidural is not a casual jab. It's a catheter placed near the spine to deliver continuous pain relief. Dosing can be adjusted without removing and reinserting the catheter, which is why the idea of 2 epidurals, if taken literally, raised eyebrows. Is it medically impossible?
No.
Is it routine? Also no. And if the memoir language was simply imprecise, if 2 meant 2 adjustments or top-ups rather than 2 fully separate procedures, then the confusion is at least understandable. The problem is that ambiguity, once aired, rarely returns quietly to its cage. It breeds theories, and theories breed more questions. Then there's the recovery timeline. Commentators skeptical of the official account argue that leaving a maternity ward within hours, especially after significant pain management or any complication, would be unusual. Not unheard of, but unusual. Add the practicalities: newborn checks, administrative discharge, security protocols, and the drive from central London to Windsor. In the best of circumstances, that's a lot to compress into a narrow window. Supporters counter that VIP care can accelerate logistics and
Describes her very well, and he does this by taking a look.
Absolute media manipulation. But I thought tonight this was really.
and that individual experiences vary widely. Still, when critics lay the sequence end-to-end, they argue it looks less like a day in the life and more like a montage. Complicating everything is the press choreography, or, as detractors put it, the lack of it. Traditionally, royal births follow an almost liturgical order. The monarch informed first, a formal announcement prepared, briefings to the lobby, and updates that move in lockstep with reality. With Archie, Reporters describe receiving messages that didn't align. Some told the Duchess was in labor when Archie was already safely here, others learning after the fact with little clarity about timing. Was that a security-driven attempt to keep the frenzy at bay? Was it a communications fumble in a high-pressure moment? Or was it, as critics claim, a deliberate fog machine? Even royal correspondents who are generally sympathetic admitted confusion, and confusion, once seated, tends to flourish. Zoom in further, and you find the micro details that fuel YouTube breakdowns and column inches. The secret elevator, Harry describes, which longtime hospital staffers say sounds more mythical than mechanical. The late-night food orders that insiders claim don't match the facility's usual service patterns. The different explanations Meghan has offered for why the press was kept at arm's length. None of those fragments prove anything on their own. Together, though, they create a perception problem, the sense that the narrative has been edited for mood and message rather than documentary clarity.
That's a lie. She's not in the hospital trying to induce labor by twerking. The hospital will not give you a bed because you're trying to induce labor. You are not.
A perception problem is the true engine of this controversy. Once an audience believes they're being managed rather than informed, even small inconsistencies balloon into capital I issues. And because Harry and Meghan have positioned themselves as advocates for maternal health and honest storytelling, critics argue that their own story should be the gold standard for clarity. If the memoir's wording around pain management was imprecise, say so plainly. If the timeline was compressed for privacy or security reasons, say that without flourish. If the palace comms team's staggered announcements, own the operational rationale. Ambiguity feeds suspicion. Specificity drains it. Some commentators have taken the skepticism even further, calling for extraordinary measures, DNA tests, medical records, formal statements about the births, framed as a necessary corrective to what they view as a muddled public account. That is a bridge too far for many observers who point out that medical privacy is not a perk, it's a right. The royal family may be a public institution, but childbirth is not a constitutional ceremony. There is an ethical line between asking for narrative consistency and demanding proof of the most intimate kind. The existence of sensational theories doesn't entitle the public to medical files. Still, the broader reputational stakes are real. In a media ecosystem where virality often outpaces verification, inconsistencies, perceived or actual, are nitro. One influencer's incredulity becomes a panel show segment. A panel show segment becomes an opinion column. An opinion column becomes a trending thread amplified by thousands who only skim the headline. Candace Owens's critiques thrive in that environment not because she has inside knowledge, but because